Welcome to Talking Halos. This is Derek Ciapola with my co-host, my partners in crime, Jared Timms, Nate Green, and we are here to discuss the big news. Kurt Suzuki, the new manager of the Angels.
That's the big news. I wasn't sure what we were talking about.
Well, that's the big news for us. I mean, is that sarcasm?
I was kidding. It was a
You
joke.
just, you just messed with me a little bit?
Well, at last podcast you weren't here, Nate gave a horrible, horrible intro, so we had to redo it again. And
Oh,
so I figured we have a little fun with it.
Nate, do you hear that beeping sound? That's the sound of him just backing the bus right over you. Just
Yeah, yeah, it's
being,
it's very typical. What else do you expect from him? Yeah, it's really, and it wasn't even a bad intro last time. He just didn't like that I said it's going good. Like
I just wanted more enthusiasm out of him, okay? The
yeah,
Angels got a new manager. We got to get a little enthusiasm going here. A lot of people are going to watch this one. It's just how it works.
okay. So hold on a minute. Since inevitably we're going to have some other things to talk about relating to it, let's just go with the first things first here. Nate, what are your first impressions of it?
man, you making me go first. It would have been
Well,
awesome to
I'll go first if you
let
want.
Jared go first, so I don't look like the bad guy. But um, I thought it was a head scratching move, honestly. I know. Kurt is very tight with a lot of the Angels higher ups with Perry and with Artie and things like that. He's been part of the org the last couple of years. I know that, but I think that you had an opportunity to get a guy who has been in the dugout this last year, and it looked like they were playing a little bit better in that series with having a terrible roster at that time as well. And I'm pointing to Torrey Hunter
Oh,
when he was in the dugout the last couple of weeks or the last.
I thought you were talking about bringing Ray Montgomery back.
No, 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 absolutely not. But Torrey was in the dugout for the twin series late in the year, I believe, and they played well in that series with an awful roster. And I don't know, I just think that he brings a little bit of leadership to that clubhouse that we could use. I think he brings a little bit um, of knowledge as well to some of these young guys that he could help out. And I think that he just brings passion, which would have been nice to have out of a manager. I mean, the last guy that we really thought about like this would have been, I guess some people were that hyped up with Joe Madden when it came to like, oh, he's going to be this enthusiastic guy and he knows his stuff, things like that. But um, no, I think that there were other guys that made more sense. And Kurt Suzuki, it's great that he got the job, but not my first choice or my second, if that's fair.
Jared.
Um, Chris Suzuki is a very good baseball mind. SoCal native. Good to see that as well. Cal State Fullerton, first Hawaiian manager in all of baseball, which is cool. Um, I, what kind of opinion do you want? Do you want my opinion on
I
Kurt
want the
Suzuki, or do you want my
truth, dude.
opinion
I want
on
the
everything?
opinion on the hiring.
Okay.
We're going to get into everything else, but let's
I
your
don't
opinion
I
on the
don't
hiring
think
itself.
I don't think a manager matters that much, especially in the Angels organization. I think that a manager can only do so much. We saw that with Ray. We saw that with Ron. We saw that with Phil. We saw that with any manager. Joe Madden, I think, is a very good manager, and he can only do so much with what the Angels were able to put on the field. So I don't think that Kurt Suzuki is going to play a huge role. I like the name. Um, He's a great baseball mind. There's a reason why he was in professional baseball for so long. He's a catcher as well, which I love catchers as managers. I mean, even dating back to like the Socha era, I think a catcher as a manager just understands the game a little bit better than anybody else. Like Albert Pujols would have been great, but I mean, Albert Pujols doesn't see the whole field. He played first base. He DH'd. He's a great baseball mind, but it is what it is. Torrey Hunter, another one, great baseball mind. Like played the game extremely well, played the game hard, how you want your players to play. He didn't see the whole field. He wasn't the conductor of the game, as weird as that sounds. Like I don't know if I want to call it a conductor, but he wasn't the guy sitting there calling everything, seeing everything as it goes. So as far as Kurt Suzuki goes, I like Kurt Suzuki. I think he's a great baseball mind. I'm extremely excited to see the coaching staff that he brings in. If he does bring in a certain coaching staff, I think that he is going to have a decent relationship with Perry Van Hasing because he was a special assistant to the GM, so he's been close with Perry. I don't know what that includes, what he did with Perry, but special assistant to the GM, so he had to have had some input over the past, couple of years since he's retired. And I think that this helps. Logan O'Hoppe. I think this helps Travis d'Arnaud in the long run because Kurt Suzuki was a good defensive catcher as well, and I think that he can bring a little bit of that to the plate as well. Beyond that, I don't know what to make of it. He's never had a track record. I think right now he's coaching 12U baseball. Um, but again, great baseball mind. There's a reason why he was in the league for 16 years. Is he a Hall of Famer? No. Is he the biggest name? No. Did he put butts in seats? No. But I think that, it's a good hire from a name perspective. But there's no track record there, so I don't know how he's going to be.
When was he a good defensive catcher?
I think he's been a decent defensive catcher his entire career.
Yeah, negative 87 defensive run save,
Mhm.
negative 50 framing value. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's about
And
what
I
we
think
have now, actually.
I'd say there's different intangibles when it comes to a catcher as well. I think his game calling is there's not a stat for game calling, but I think the Angels have a bad time at game calling, pitch calling in
That's what
particular.
Travis d'Arnaud was supposed to come in to do, though.
I think well, you are correct. I think that, the mental side of the game, I just think that, again, I mean, there's a reason why he was in this game in Major League Baseball for 16 years, as a catcher. He's a great mind. He's a good clubhouse guy. He understands the game. I just, again, at the end of the day, I don't think that a manager, especially in this organization, has very much to do with winning or losing.
Oh, wow. Hmm. I I think the story is more about who they didn't hire than who they did hire. I mean, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be the case. Kurt Suzuki doesn't deserve that. I, but hearing the kind of whispers and reading some what was going on with Pujols and in terms of what he wanted for the job, and then of course Torrey Hunter isn't that much of a different personality in terms of what he would want. So I'm guessing a lot of the same divisions were there. You realize that the Angels were probably getting their third choice all along, and that's not a really a good feel for me as a baseball guy to know that, hey, third choice, he might be fine as a manager. He probably does know the game. I do like catchers more often as managers, but I mean, with no track record, you don't know. But to me, there's one thing that we keep talking about over and over again, and Nate, you and I have both kind of been on this side of the fence with it. Jared, you been kind of in the middle, but you know, Perry, to me, he should be done at this point. Like he's failed. And so now you've kind of doubled down on the Malaysian regime by bringing in his guy to be the manager. And you're just kind of, it's like putting an old tape and saying repeat. That's what we're doing here. I think Kurt Suzuki's been set up for failure. And that's not in anything to do with him. But unless the Angels change their way of thinking overall in terms of roster building, in terms of organization, which they have shown an unwillingness to do, it's just more of the same. I think Pujols or even Torrey Hunter had a better chance of shaking things up there or forcing the chain to do that over Kurt Suzuki, and they weren't the guys who were hired. So
I'll,
that's where we are.
I will say this. I don't think this is a Perry Minasian hire by any means. I think that if I was to give it percentages, I'd say this is, and Nate, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 25% Perry Minasian. Like, I think there was some agreement.
I think it was close. I think it was more than that, but I'm not going to say it's like Perry 60, already 40. Like I'm not at that
No,
point,
no,
but I do think
I'm going to
it's
give it.
higher than 20% because I do think that Perry has a good relationship with him as well and wanted this was like the compromise for Perry, I think, of like, hey, you're not gonna get a full say in this, but we're not gonna choose Pujols and we're not gonna choose Torrey Hunter because that would be 100% an already hire. So how about we meet in the middle? We both like Kurt. We'll make him the manager. And maybe it's 60-40 already or 50-50, but it's way closer to 50 than it is, 20, but it's not anywhere near where Perry has more say in this.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll say that I think it's 25% Perry. I think that Perry, likes Ron. I think that Perry likes, not Ron, but I think Perry likes Kurt. I do. I mean, it's hard not to like Kurt Suzuki. I just mentioned it, on my little rant there. It's hard not to like Kurt Suzuki, but I think that there were other managers that Perry would have preferred over all three of these candidates. I think all three of these candidates that we've heard the most about are 100% Artie choices. Kurt Suzuki is a friend of Artie Moreno. Albert Pujols, friend of Artie Moreno, and Torrey Hunter, a big name. I would assume friend of Artie Moreno as well. One thing I do want to kind of put to the side here is like the political side of stuff. I don't like to get into the politics. I don't like to do any of that. Um, I don't think that had much to do with it. I know that, Angels fans may say, and you might get the picture of Kurt Suzuki being hugged by Donald Trump, and it is what it is. I'm gonna say that there is no way that there's anything to do with that other than them being friends because of that. I just want to put that to rest right now. Um, because I mean, there's gonna be jokes made 100%. Like I've already texted them, make the Angels great again, blah 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 blah. Like that's gonna be a slogan, 110%. But all that being said, that's not the reason why this hire happened. If you want to say that he was friends with Artie, absolutely, but it's not because of the political side of stuff. Um, with the one thing I will say, and I was hoping this, I've said this quite a few times with Albert Pujols, was that Albert Pujols and even Torrey Hunter a little bit, I wouldn't say as much as Albert Pujols, they would have had a little bit more pull with Artie Moreno. I don't think Kurt has that pull with Artie. And I'm not saying that Artie would have, or I'm not saying that Pujols or Torrey or even Kurt's going to say, hey, like go spend more money and such like that, because Artie spends money. I think we're all in agreement here. I think a lot of people know that Artie spends money, and we can point at Permanacing maybe not spending it the right way, or Artie Moreno spending not spending it the right way on big contracts and such like that. We can point at that all day. I think that Albert Pujols or Torrey Hunter, and maybe even Kurt Suzuki might pull this a little bit more. I don't think it's going to be the case because Artie Moreno just proved that he doesn't care about winning because he didn't want to spend money on hiring quote unquote the bigger name, the better manager, whatever you want to say. Like he just proved it. I think that Albert and Torrey would have had just a little bit more pull on the baseball side of things, which would have been very nice. And I think that's one of the reasons why at the end of the day they didn't get hired or they didn't want to get hired, because they weren't going to have as much say in this organization, which has been happening for years now. This isn't something new. I mean, um, so I think that that's part of it. I do think the money had a little bit to do with it. I already mentioned. I don't think that Artie wanted to shell out the money for an Albert Pujols, so Torrey Hunter. I think he was okay with putting the money where it was for Kurt Suzuki, who's already in the organization. But that was my hope with Albert and even Torrey, was that they would have a little bit of pull on the baseball side of things and said, hey, this is a better business, better baseball move for this organization if we do this instead of the way we're doing it now. If we're developing, if we're putting more money here, if we're doing this, that, and another, might have had a little bit more say with Artie. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm fine with Kurt. It's a good name. But I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more pool with Artie, but we'll see. You never know. You never know.
I I I don't think he's gonna have any pull. And I think the other two had enough name recognition to where they could have really challenged some things in the organization more. And if that's the case, to me, it's no offense to Kurt, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer of it, but I don't see how this is good if we're looking to try and see things turned around. And that's the troublesome part for me. That's the part that I struggle with. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know, Nate, you're probably not going to be tell me I'm wrong on this.
Well, what I was gonna say is what Jared basically said without saying it is he got a yes man. Like that's what it is. He went up there and said yes. Whatever they said, it was yes. Where the other two probably pushed back a little bit and said, "Hey, with the roster we have right now, we're not going to win. You need to make some changes. Here's how you can make some changes." And Kurt was probably like, "Yes." Because that's the only way you get this job is if you say yes. If you don't say yes, then you're not getting the job. Um, I also think that Pujols and Hunter would have had a little bit more of a problem with Perry in the clubhouse, where Kurt is probably like, hey, you know what? Like, I was kind of with him last year. I wasn't like there all the time, but like, you know, I trust him. I believe in him. So like him in the clubhouse, like totally fine. And I think that Pujols and Hunter would have been a little bit more like, get out of here, let me do my job. Your job is to put the team on the field. My job is to win baseball games. We'll figure out how to do it together, but stay out of my clubhouse. And so I think they got a yes man. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day is who's going to say yes to the higher ups, and that's who it is.
I- I'll also add this in. I want a good communicator as manager as well. Whether it's with the media, whether it's with his players, like I think it starts with the media. I know that it is an Angels thing right now to not communicate very well with the media, which kind of points towards bad communication in the clubhouse. So that's one thing I would look for in a manager. I'd hope that Kurt communicates a little bit better with the media per se. Giving a little better updates on certain things. He doesn't have to be wide open. I get it, but better updates on maybe some injuries and such like that would be very nice. And I think that goes in the clubhouse as well. As long as he's a good communicator in the clubhouse with the players, I think that's a good thing too.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back with you after a word from our sponsors for audio listeners. So here's the thing, guys, is I mean, this goes back to a podcast we had a while ago, for me anyways. And it was a podcast where we talked about the lack of accountability from Perry, where he didn't take any responsibility for anything he was doing. And it just seems like they're kind of doubling down on that very same culture they built here, where we're just going to just keep going back and recycling the same things we've done. Nate, you made a great point. It's a yes man. It's what it is, a yes man. So you're not really going to have anything to challenge the system as it is. And currently the system's broken. We all know that. I'm sure, listen, I think he'll be okay in the field. I don't think he's going to make any, there's enough baseball knowledge in his brain to where I think he'll be fine in the field. I think he will make solid decisions, but you're not going to make this team a 95 win team with the roster you have, no matter how good you are at managing it. That roster's not built that way right now. And that goes back to the general manager. That goes back to your ownership team and the organization that you built. And that's why, as I'm looking at this hire, I'm happy for the guy. I got no beef with him. I hope he does well. I think he's been set up for failure because it's an organizational problem right now, not a Kurt problem. And we're going to spend the next year or two complaining about the decisions on the field that he makes. And in the back of my mind, I'm going to think, well, the guy never had a fair shot to begin with because his support system there, the general manager, the ownership team, isn't going to give him even the mix that he needs to win. And that's a problem for me. And I hate being this pessimistic, guys. When I started this podcast 6 years ago, I was I was convinced they were on the way back up again. I was convinced that they're only a few steps away, that Billy Epler had the plan. And now to me, the organization is a shell of what I remember it being 15 years ago, and so far away from that optimism that's really sad for me to even talk about it. But here we are, a hire that I should be excited about. I should be, but I'm not. And it's not, it has nothing even to do with him. It's just another face with a name that'll do their bidding.
Yeah, it kind of also sucks. Not that Kurt Suzuki had a legacy by any means, but I mean, 16 years in the major leagues, like you do remember him for things. And Angels
Oh
fans
yeah.
already remember him for being a bad player with the Angels. Now he's gonna more than likely fail as an Angels manager. I hope it doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't. But more than likely fail as an Angels manager. So it's like check, and everybody's gonna hate, this guy. One thing I will say on this too is I don't hope, but I do also hope that Albert and Torrey go on and have successful managerial careers somewhere else. Because it's not going to happen in Anaheim, unfortunately. Like it sucks. At least not right now. Maybe down the road, it'll happen. You bring Albert back, you bring Torrey back at some point. But right now, with where this organization is, the team is, I don't think it's going to happen. And it sucks because I've been saying I think the window opens next year. And you need a lot of things at the moment to go right for that window to be open. I still think the window's open. I think they have the pieces to do it, but they definitely need some help. That's for sure. And maybe I could be wrong. We could totally 100% be wrong, but it just feels like history continues to kind of repeat itself in Anaheim.
Nate.
Yeah. Dang, Nate. It's
I
just
mean,
me and Derek being negative today, huh? You're normally the negative Nate.
there's not much more you could say, honestly. Like, we'll see what happens when we get to the season. We'll see kind of the roster that's built. Um, but yeah, it's really just like you feel bad for Kurt because it's like, man, the roster that has been constructed the last 10 years has not been a a playoff roster. It hasn't been a roster that's been able to do anything. Um, and I think the only thing that could change my opinion on Kurt and feeling bad for him is if he just invites Perry into the clubhouse. It's like, yeah, keep doing your thing. Like it's obviously been working the last couple of years. Like that's where I would be like, hey, you're that's something that you can control or at least try to control. And it seems like everyone who has tried to control that has been pushed out because I mean, we saw it with Joe, we've seen it with Ron, we've seen it all over. Those guys seem to be like, hey, this is the way I want to do things, and hasn't gone that way. So hopefully Kurt is able to kind of run things the way he wants to. But yeah, if he's a yes man, then nothing's going to change, and this team is going to continue to be bad. And so, like, I don't know what you guys want me to say. It's pretty open. What you guys
I'm
said,
a,
it's pretty easy.
I just I feel very numb inside about it. I remember when you guys know I'm a history guy. You guys are, if I've ever anybody talks about the history of the team on the show, it's gonna be me. But I remember when he took over ownership of the team and he was dropping beer prices. He's out there getting players, and everything was he was looking like he was going to be one of the best owners in the sport, if not all American pro sports. And that's Artie, right? And then as time goes on, you see him kind of with his fingers in there. And then I look years later when he hires Perry. I was excited about the hire of Perry. He was successful under, with what the Braves were doing at the time in terms of development and so on and so forth. I thought this was a good hire. And in both cases now, it's totally flipped its head. And we were wishing Artie would sell the team, or wishing Perry would have been fired, and you wishing that everything could be just reset. And it's deflating to me because instead I'm seeing this, like I said, the words doubling down. But I remember all the good stuff, and that's the hardest part for an older fan like me is I remember the good stuff, and it's frustrating. Man, I hate to be so depressing. We should be excited. New manager. We should be excited, and I would like to be.
Kurt
Share
Suzuki's
your
been
thoughts with us. Nate, closing thoughts.
We need to put a good team around Kurt. I'm hoping that he brings in some good coaches on the staff and hope that he doesn't have, a problem that we've seen before where it's like, hey, we've already paid these guys. They have one more year on their contract. They're going to be your staff. Good luck. Um, and hopefully we make some moves in the wintertime. There's a lot of things that need to get done in order to make this team a contender. I don't even think you can call this team a pretender right now. Like they're not even that good. So there's a lot of things that need to go right. And I guess this is job one, getting the manager in there, and now job two is going to get the coaching staff, and then job three is putting a good team on the field. So we got job one done. Hopefully job two is not done. And then job three we can figure out as we go along.
Jared, closing thoughts.
I'm just wondering what Jose Suarez is doing.
Of course he
Oh
is.
dear gosh. All right. Follow Jared on X at Jared_Tims. Follow Nate at Nate Green 34. Follow me at DC Paul. Follow the entire team at Talking Halos. Do us a favor, please. Please, for all that's good and holy, let us know what you think about this hire. Get us at talkinghalos@gmail.com, or send them a tweet over to, or the X, whatever you want to call it now, to the Talking Halos X account. Let's hear your thoughts. It's not about us, it's about you. Of course, you can always leave comments in the YouTube comment section as well, but I would love to address some of this next time. As a matter of fact, I think we should do that next podcast. Let's go ahead and read off some of these responses and see how other fans are feeling besides us. In the meantime, we're out of here. Have a great one.